7 o'clock, I'm going to call to order the East Lyme Inland Wetlands Agency regular meeting of October 7th, 2025. We're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Let's see. We don't have any additions to the agenda. Yes, we do. I'm sorry. So we have two items that we need to add under new business. First is 7 Bramble Bush Road, determination of non-regulated activity for a shed. Can I just do them both at once?
Yeah.
And the second is Stone Goat Farm, Grassy Hill Road, determination of non-regulated activity for a timber harvest. Do I hear a motion to add both items under new business for today's meeting?
I'll make a motion. Yeah, no seconds.
And a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, so next would be public delegations. Public delegations is the time when members of the public are invited to speak to the commission about certain matters. Issues or concerns related to approved wetland permits and in-house proposals or general topics of discussion are open to comment. Agenda items, referrals, applications subject to a decision by the commission, a public hearing, or litigation may not be discussed. Is there anyone here that falls into the public delegation, or we all have agenda items? Okay. No public hearings today. Next would be the acceptance of the regular meeting minutes of September 2nd, 2025. Do I hear a motion to accept the meeting minutes?
I make a motion to accept the meeting minutes.
Second?
I second the motion.
Thank you. All those in favor? Okay. Ex officio report? Yeah.
Hi, Ann Chicello from the Board of Selectmen, ex officio. Sorry. Okay, so as you know, the construction is going on for the highway, and exit 74th southbound off-ramp and exit 75 on-ramp will be closed for 2 weeks starting on October 19th, 2025. So people, they'll probably have detours and stuff for people. The project is scheduled to be completed in 2027. The zoning board met, I don't know if anybody realizes, Thursday, and they rejected an application to put a dog park at the Darrow Pond area. Actually, it was an acre near Darrow Pond parking area. There was issues of preserving open space and concern about the sanitation and spread of disease. As you can see here, the town hall is still under construction, and they are making it ADA compliant, and that construction will be ending soon. Saturday, October 11th, is Nahantic Heritage Day at McCook Park. It's starting with an opening ceremony at 11 a.m., traditional drumming, family and cultural activities. It's free and open to the public. And then at 1 o'clock, they're going to have a presentation and a discussion about the Nahantics. Do you guys have any questions about anything?
What were the exits that you...
So, yeah, it's exit 74th southbound off-ramp and exit 75 on-ramp will be closed for 2 weeks starting October 19th. So it's going to be a lot of traffic going on there.
So there's been some discussion about a shower in letters to the editor and things like that. That's part of the ADA compliance, is it not?
So it's my understanding that there was a shower previously, and I think they just like fixed it up basically. You know, I don't. The other issue is this regarding the shower is it is not something that's required, but it's something that may be required. So it's better to have it versus once they require it, then it's going to require construction and pulling things down. So I guess if there's any kind of issues with chemicals, I guess they said that the employees would need to shower if there's any caustic chemicals.
Wait, I'm sorry. Where?
Downstairs.
Downstairs there's a shower.
Switch gears. I'm like, wait.
Yeah, that's what he was asking about,
Okay.
the shower. I'm sorry.
Here.
Yeah, at the town hall.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, no, you're on the dog park? No, we've moved, yeah. Yeah. I was just answering his question.
Okay.
See, to go back on the dog park thing, is there any alternative or anything?
So, it's a good question. They did come before the Board of Selectmen at one point, this dog park group, and they wanted to put it up on near Corey Lane, I think it is. Isn't that where it is? Yeah. And there was a lot of people who objected to it because there's so much traffic on that road as it is. And the Board of Selectmen kind of discouraged them from using that area. There was a big kind of uproar from the neighbors there and just said it's not going to be a good place. And, we said, well, what about, up on Durrow's Ridge, that area, Mostowie area, and actually they never came back before the Board of Selectmen again. The next thing I heard is they were before the zoning board. So, I don't know. And I don't know if there's another place in town. I was actually trying to talk to somebody to see, what other areas there might be, but we haven't come up with anything. Gary's looking at me. Do you have something, Gary?
I sat on a small subcommittee Jerry had asked me to sit in on, who explored these various options of where we could locate a dog park in town. Well, I think they stumbled upon Darrow's and they stuck with it.
Yeah,
for a variety of
I thought it
reasons.
was a good place personally, but
I think the location relative to the budding neighbors was the issue up there. The other issue is in particular, what I find interesting is the group of individuals who are wanting this dog park passionately. They live primarily on the southern end of town, so they're going to have to drive fairly far. So in terms of transit-oriented development, it doesn't really promote that. While the space is available, there's other constraints on that property, such as the New England cottontail. And having dogs running around certainly doesn't support that effort in terms of preserving that habitat. That being said, there is a master plan for the property for the 100 acres that's available for the town use. And that's really the committee I was sitting on. And as they develop that, there's a disc golf component to that. There's an outdoor education, aquatic education center component as well. And then hiking trails, an ADA compliance trail. We have a $34,000 grant from Connecticut DEEP for the design of that trail that we're currently underway with. So it's moving forward. So I think the idea was there's space out there.
yeah.
Just maybe the location that they have proposed isn't the best.
So what I'm thinking is, I guess that maybe once they get the education center and all the disc golf and everything else going, that maybe they'll be able to find a place up there for a dog park. Because right now, and I think then they'll probably do more with the parking and the roads, because I think that was an issue with the zoning also. So I think eventually they'll probably be able to have it, but I think they want to get everything else in place first. I don't know for sure, but that's kind of my guess, that if it comes up again, that it might be accepted.
The sense that I got, and the recommendation that I had, is that the dog park, to serve the community, I guess best based on the individuals who are desiring this amenity, Brybrook Park would be ideal. My understanding, though, is there's some constraints there as far as location, area. I have a feeling, though, we could find space over there, roughly the same area. And the other part of this is that the cost of developing that dog park, so it's a capital improvement, and where the location that was chosen at Darrow's was already cleared, so we'd just be really erecting a fence. So without having to clear any land and getting it prepared for a dog park. So that's the other reason Darrow's was ideal as compared to all the other properties the town owned. We looked at Vets Park. Constraints there with ledge, the ball fields, in wetlands, obviously. So every site had limitations. Darrow's really had the least in that regard. But I think there's other locations at Darrell Pond. There's 100 acres. We can't find one to support this out there. And while it may require some walking, I've had conversations with Art Carlson, who was the former chair of the Natural Resources Commission at that time when he was sitting on that. We discussed possible dog parks in the future. Well, that was something that the subcommittee that was put together when we acquired the land. We looked at all the different various uses that could possibly be acceptable out there for the town. A dog park was not necessarily on that list, if I recall.
I don't remember.
So I'd have to go back and look at the list, but I don't think it was. It was very, but again, it is a relatively passive activity. Running with your dog, you know. I don't know. I struggle too with, we have all of these great open spaces. 17, almost 18% of the town is open space. That's ample area, in my opinion, to walk your dogs. So it may not be a formal training ground for dogs. I feel that we have adequate area within our town to support that activity.
I think you were looking for the socialization aspect.
Yeah.
But are we overcomplicating it by I keep seeing traffic and parking concerns for a dog park. I mean, how many people realistically are there at the same time?
There's that potential. My other thought is there's an existing dog park, well, it's privately held, up at Gateway Development. My thought was maybe there's an opportunity for commercial industry just to provide the service.
It's across from the backside of Costco, across the stream of the side.
They were so savvy, maybe they would have a membership option.
Yeah,
That
That's a
residents
good
could
idea.
use their dog park for a fee.
And who owns that?
That's the Gateway Apartments. I'd have to look up the current owner.
Is it Jerry Locken who's in charge now of the?
He's the director of Parks and Rec.
No, I know, but who's like the person who's like spearheading the committee for the dog park? I know it used to be Jay Ginsburg, and he stepped down. He left town, moved away.
Yeah.
Joe probably has a contact, right?
Donovan. Right? Is it Donovan?
Don't know.
Give me a second. It'll come to me.
Okay. I mean, that might be a good idea.
Yeah.
So I can.
Cove Apartment Ventures LLC.
What'd you say?
Cove Apartment Ventures LLC are the owners of the land in which I guess the dog park resides.
Okay. Good. Any other questions? Okay, great. Thank you.
All right, so next under new business, first item we have is Colony Road Bridge number 05623 over Latimer Brook. Jeffrey Palatine, PE applicant, Tyler Site owner, application for replacement of bridge number 05623 on Colony Road over Latimer Brook, abutting 16 Colony Road to the north and 17 Colony Road to the south.
I should be able to hit the button. Got a red circle here? What? Yeah, let's go this way. Okay. Yeah, you might have to hit escape for a second. And then at the bottom, you go to the tab there. You'll see it should pop up quick here. There's a circle. share my screen. You got it comes up kind of like that. Circles white. Just blank it. Do you have copies of the PDFs of the plans? I can bring those up.
I do have a USB as well.
Yeah,
So.
mine too. See if it works on this one.
All right, sorry about this.
It's just regular USB, right?
Yeah, it's just a,
Looks like there's some. What if we have some, click check D, just checked. What if we have some, something preventing it on our laptops?
full battery. You can use this if you want. It may not be your presentation as much.
Well, I mean, I do have a USB with a presentation on it, if that's
Okay,
okay.
yeah, if I plug that in.
Okay.
Some image right now to fix it.
No,
I could
I just
close it.
Oh, that's yours. Like, oh, we got it. All right, take this one away.
Did it?
Yeah, it looks like it's just connecting to yours.
Yeah. Presentation?
Yep.
You did that one?
Yep.
Yeah, the rest of those ones.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Sorry about the delay on that. So I'm Jeff Fontaine. I'm with VHB. We're working as liaison engineers for this project, State Project 44161, which is the replacement of bridge number 5623 Colony Road over Latimer Brook. Just a quick view of where we're at. Obviously, we're in the town of East Lyme. The bridge is located approximately 1.25 miles north of Route 1. It's along Colony Road, basically between Sylvan Glen and Brookfield Drive. So then just kind of a aerial view of where exactly we're talking about. So purpose and need of this project, the existing twin culverts are structurally deficient. They're rated as inspected to be in poor condition. There's isolated rust holes. The bottom plates have laminar rust, thinning, deflection, deep pitting, and this is pretty much observed throughout the length of each pipe. So the existing twin culverts were originally built. The first one was built in 1969, with the second one coming in later in 1982. They're roughly 17 feet by 10 feet tall. They run about 100 feet long, and there's just under 5 feet of ballast over the culvert, which is basically the amount of soil from the top of the roadway to the top of the pipe. So the road above the culvert is about 30 feet curb to curb. Average daily traffic over the road is 322 vehicles per day, and this bridge supports a drainage area of 19.6 square miles. So just a few photos of the site. This is the upstream elevation, the north side, and then a view of the downstream side, which is to the south, and then a view looking upstream. One thing to note is There are no wetlands within our proposed project area, though there are wetlands within the vicinity of our project. Those you could kind of see, well, can't really see them, but they're located to the left of the upstream side of the project. So in this photo, they're just off the photo to the left. And then a view looking downstream. Colony Road looking east. And then looking west. So the project is located within a FEMA flood zone AE and FEMA floodway. Base flood elevations upstream at 69 and then downstream 65. So the proposed bridge replacement, very different from existing, where we're removing the twin culverts and adding a clear span structure. The bridge is designed to follow USACE and Connecticut DEEP guidelines to return the stream basically to a pre-existing condition, as close to, like, say, the natural condition as if like a road was never built there. Basically this project was taken to an interagency meeting with state and federal regulators, and all of their recommendations have been incorporated into this project. ClearSpan replaces the existing multi-cell structure and allows the natural character of Latimer Brook to be restored through the crossing. And the channel will be regraded beyond the limits of the existing culverts. You could kind of see in green, obviously, the what we're proposing for the regrading. We are proposing riprap along the slopes with natural stream bed material, covering the riprap up to the top of the ordinary high water elevation, which is shown in blue here. And we're also proposing wildlife shelves on both sides, basically to allow animals to cross beneath the bridge. So the 78-foot clear span provides 1.2 times the bankful width, which more than doubles the current hydraulic opening, and decreases flood flows and scour potential. Let's see. And then basically after construction, all disturbed areas within the project limits will be stabilized and restored. We have riprap along the slopes, and then we'll have turf establishment and any disturbed areas shown where riprap is not proposed. So just kind of a quick view of the proposed site plan. Light blue lines are the FEMA floodway limits, the dark blue are the FEMA 100-year flood, and the red are the ordinary high water lines. So there are 3 stages for this project. The first stage doesn't involve any in-water work. It's primarily for the relocation of the existing water main, which is going to be constructed and attached to the south side of the bridge. So that's stage 1, getting that out of the way and getting it ready for its permanent attachment later on. But stage 2 will involve removal of the pipe on the east side. So we'll be setting up cofferdam, sandbag cofferdams as shown in green, and basically digging out that whole area, removing that. I guess one thing to note is that as far as set control, we are tying the sandbag cofferdams immediately into the set control just to make sure that there's no sediment infiltrating into the existing channel, which will be maintained through the culvert on the west side. And that's also to address fisheries concerns to make sure that we have continuous fish passage throughout the entire project. So then stage 3, we'll be switching the cofferdam to the other side for removal of the western culvert, while flow is maintained through the newly basically dug out portion on the east side. So wetland and watercourse impacts. Total watercourse, we have 440 square feet of temporary impacts. That's primarily due to the installation of the cofferdam and then eventually removal. The 4,514 square feet of permanent impacts is due to obviously taking out the existing bridge and basically excavating that entire area for the new structure. As mentioned, the wetlands are outside of our proposed project limits, so there's no impacts to wetlands. So our total impacts, temporary and permanent, end up being just under 5,000 square feet, which is just over 1/10 of an acre. Floodplain impact plan, basically any impacts within the 100-year floodway or 100-year flood elevations. So that extends basically to include some of the roadway work that's happening above. Total cut will be 620 cubic yards. Fill will be 27 cubic yards. Obviously, there's a lot more excavation than fill for this project. So we're looking at just under 600 cubic yards of a net cut for floodplain impacts. So sediment control plan, impacts will be minimized through the adherence of the Connecticut DOT Form 818, Section 110, which are best management practices, and the 2024 Storm Quality Manual. Sediment and erosion control measures will be in accordance with the 2024 Connecticut Guidelines for Soil Erosion and Sedimentation Control Guidelines. All work will be completed within the confines of a sedimentation control device. We've got said fencing as well as the cofferdams in place, which, as shown in the staging plans, they will be abutting and tying into each other to make sure there's no infiltration into the channel. And all disturbed areas within the project limits will be stabilized and restored, as mentioned, with turf establishment, riprap with natural stream bed material, grass establishment, and any other measures as needed. So just to kind of summarize, temporary watercourse impacts, 440 square feet. Again, that's for the water handling and dewatering. Permanent watercourse impacts are 4,514 square feet, which is grading, riprap placement, removal of the existing bridge, and replacements with the new clear span structure. Floodplain impacts are, again, just under 600 cubic yards of net cut, which is embankment grading, riprap installation, removal of the existing culverts, and replacement with the clear span structure, and any roadway reconstruction within those limits above. So just other information as far as fisheries coordination is concerned, all in-water work is prohibited from March 1st to May 15th, and the stream must remain open for free fish passage throughout construction. So as mentioned, we are going to be maintaining the channel during each stage. Pumping water is prohibited from May 16th to November 30th. A gravity bypass pipe is acceptable, but we won't be necessarily needing pumping for this project. And best management practices will be implemented to minimize turbidity and sediment transport downstream. For NDDB, Natural Diversity Database, the coordination has been completed and wood turtle protection plan has been included as part of the project. And as far as additional considerations, we are not within a public water supply watershed and are not impacting public drinking water supply with this project. So we do anticipate 3 permits, one being the local East Lyme Inland Wetland and Watercourse permit. We are also applying for the DOT Deep Flood Management Certification, and then the U.S. Army Corps Connecticut General Permit self-verification. So again, thank you for taking the time to let us present this. If there's any questions.
I actually have a question. Latimer Brook is pretty prone to flooding, and so this appears like it's going to open the flow rate through. Have you analyzed like the downstream impacts of potential like, large rainstorm events on the neighbors that live nearby?
Yep. So as far as when we design these projects, we do look into potential impacts as part of our hydraulic and floodway reports. So I mean, I'd probably pass that on to our hydraulic engineer.
Yeah, so we have to do hydraulic analyses with projects that are, you know.
Can we have you take it?
Yeah.
And your name, just for the record.
I'm Greg Garish with VHB, hydraulic engineering and permitting.
Sorry, your last name again?
Garish, Gerrish. So
we do hydraulic analyses, impacts to the floodplain, and hydraulics and scour. Those are reviewed by DOT and by DEEP, part of flood management. So we have to demonstrate no adverse impacts to properties upstream and downstream. So this opening the bridge is great for hydraulics. It will reduce the flooding there. The 500, maybe the 100-year overtop currently, and none of those events will overtop during the once the new project is constructed. There'll be several feet of clearance through for a 100-year storm. The velocities are decreased, and scour is reduced, and there'll also be additional protection with the riprap that's installed to protect the new bridge substructure from scour related damage. So really a lot of benefits hydraulically for this. So we know that the second pipe was installed in 1982 following flooding, so that increased the hydraulics. So there probably is seen less flooding since that was installed. I think that there was, from talking to the town engineer, there was some issues before that, but this should decrease flooding even further. That was a long enough answer.
We have some residents who experience repeated flooding or lack of product in that area, so I think we're downstream some are downstream of this bridge. So they may see some relief, not complete, but.
Right. Yeah. Is there another structure in between, or is it directly downstream?
Oh, it's just downstream.
Is
It's
it
kind of, tributaries and stuff, but we
Yeah,
have
okay.
beavers that created havoc
Downstream.
Yeah.
downstream.
This won't solve
No,
beaver
it won't.
problems.
No, it's gonna make it better.
Yeah.
Is the width of the bridge going to be the same?
So,
The roadway?
Yeah, the roadway.
Yeah, as far as the roadway goes, we're not necessarily impacting that too much. We do have, residences on either side, including one driveway that will be installing a temporary driveway. Right now, Rights of Way is coordinating with that property owner just to make sure we accommodate them as best as possible. But yeah, as far as increased width, it shouldn't be anything significant.
I think there's a slight increase over the bridge, but because it's a bridge project, you can't widen the whole roadway. So through the bridge, to
I did note on our site walk we had on Saturday, Ryan and I were in attendance, but that being said, I did note that there was a tree filter in the catch basin there.
Yep.
I think is that getting replaced or relocated?
they get replaced.
Replaced.
Yep. I think it is either getting relocated or it's replaced and another is being added on the other side of the bridge. It's noted on the plans.
Because when I was looking at the plan, that catch basin I was looking at, I just couldn't figure out. I was looking at the tree in the catch basin, I just couldn't find it on the plan. And it almost looked like it was down south of the bridge. Is the one, do you recall, Ryan?
That was.
Do you have the general plan too? We actually just lost the laptop. No, we got like a blue screen and then it restarted.
Oh, you
I
lost
guess
the whole
restart.
thing?
Yeah. You got a blue screen and presentation was too long.
Catch basin. Oh, there it is. Okay. It's on this one.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, there, yeah. Pointed out as tree filter. On the inside. Reset.
And then to that point, there seemed like there was a lot of vegetation there, which I would assume would be removed, but was there a plan to replace? There was a lot of trees, understory along the bridge and the sides currently.
So I think it's as part of these projects. Typically, there's just a topsoil seeded conservation mix, and there's different wetland mixed for below ordinary high water. So trees are not typically included on these projects, and replanting of trees, that's something that the town would typically do separately, as this is fully funded through federal and state means.
So basically the funds that the state and federal government provide for this project won't cover anything beyond topsoil.
Typically, yeah, it's specific to the bridge, and this is specifically to the bridge replacement itself. Yeah, for the state project. So yeah, typically the towns come back and do that themselves, and it can be added as part of the project. Typically, it's it's done outside of it.
One of the issues too is that since we're stabilizing the slopes with riprap, it's very hard for vegetation to grow on top of riprap. So we typically tend to avoid that because, I think we have done that on some projects in the past, and they've just kind of not been able to take or died. Yeah, as far as planting goes, I believe that's also kind of in discussions with the property owner mentioned, and that's kind of a separate issue since we are adding in that temporary driveway, but that's more to appease the damage that we're doing to their property and trying to restore that. So that's not necessarily related to the bridge work plantings.
The other question I had was the existing stone wall that's on the south side of the bridge. We're rebuilding that. I guess that
Yes, I think we're mostly out of the impacts, but it will be reconstructed, yeah, if it's affected.
Is there a detail for that? How's that constructed? Is it retained, like pouring concrete to rebuild it, or are you restacking it?
I think so we do have.
My concern would just be future, if they're going to get washed out. I've just seen a number of channels, stream channels that have a good example is Walnut Hill. The towns had to go in there numerous times and put larger stone on the banks.
Yeah, I don't believe we have a specific detail in the plans for that. I'd have to verify the special provision, but I believe the contractor is to match as close to existing as possible with how it's stacked.
Yeah.
I can talk with the town engineer as far as if there's any concerns. That would be my concern, just its structural integrity in the future. Or the town have to keep rebuilding it in the future.
Yeah. Typically, it's a contractor item, and they would, when the contractor is selected, they may be required to submit some plans for reconstructing that as necessary.
I'll speak with the town engineer and get clarification. Those are all the questions I have.
Does anyone else have any questions?
Being that we just received this, we need to determine whether or not you feel it needs a public hearing or not. If not, we have 65 days to make your decision. Whether it needs to remain on our agenda for 15 days, we can let's go. So definitely bring us to the next meeting on this as far as the decision goes. There are direct impacts to the water course. I don't know if it warrants a public hearing. Again, it's the discretion of this commission. In my opinion, it is improving the hydraulics and the current conditions. And so I think it's an overall benefit to the community, both environmentally and in regards to flooding. It should help alleviate, again, it's not going to solve all, but
I have a question. Were the residents that live around the area notified? Like I live in that neighborhood, but not that close to the bridge. But were they notified at all that this is potentially happening? or does that come later?
Yeah, so while we were out there, the direct neighbor just happened to be walking their dog, and we had a conversation, and I did ask, kind of, do you understand that we're replacing the bridge? That's why we're here, because we, not these strangers walking on their road. And she says, oh, we've been contacted already, so they're aware that the project's going forward. And as you can see from the pictures, there's been numerous cars out there, DPW employees and so forth. So
There's also a public information meeting held probably a year or two ago, which would have been published on the town website and notices sent to abutters.
Yep.
And,
I could check with Alex as to when that was, but yeah, about a year ago.
Yeah.
I was just curious.
Yeah. Yeah. I know that our first site meeting, a couple of the neighbors came out and talked to us about it, so got some pretty good information about the flooding there from the neighbors, the upstream side, yeah.
Do we need to make a motion?
No, you would just table discussion and we'll bring it up at the next meeting short of a public hearing. I think there's a consensus that no public hearing is required, then we'll just table discussion. Okay. So they're just going to table discussion until next regular meeting. I'm going to follow up on the stone wall item, and I'll also talk to Alex on plantings, whether there's any opportunities to plant tree or something. I'd have to take a closer look. Looking at where you've got the loam and seed over top of that riprap, like you said, anything with any large root structure is going to have difficulty probably taking root. You might not want that over your riprap. Is going to break it up as well. So, but there are,
And I know there's trees that line it on both sides, and that's really where above the head wall, where there won't be a head wall anymore because of the bridge structure type difference. So there's no embankment on either side, on the opposite embankments, but they run along, the road there. So that would be not possible to replace, but.
So I'm just thinking maybe there's a street tree or two that we could get back in there. I mean, we'll have the tree filters as well in there to provide that function as a street tree. So I'll talk to Alex and see if there's any opportunity. If not, that will be just it'll be what it'll be in terms of what the proposal is, short of what this commission decides.
So we're all set.
Okay. Do we come back next time? Is it?
We can't make any decisions on this until the next meeting.
Yeah, it has to stay on our agenda for 15 days, so it automatically kicks it to next month. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
I guess I would say if the town engineer has any concerns, I would suggest coming back. Otherwise, I think we would just have the discussion.
I met with the town engineer and VHB. We've discussed it, so he didn't have any concerns about this. It would just be the agency's concerns, any questions such as plantings, ENS controls, things like that. Again, it's a town project. We're on the hook for any violations.
Yeah, I don't really see the need for you guys to have to come back next meeting. Just
I think if I can verify with Alex whether there's any opportunities for vegetation, and then on the stone wall, obviously he'll convey any message to you if there's any changes that you had, or I don't know how that would impact the project or not. So obviously if the wall needs to be reconstructed, it's obviously failing at some level, I would think. Right? Somebody evaluated it and said it needed to be reconstructed. So that would be just my concern that the town inherits in the future as far as maintenance. And I think Alex probably should have seen.
All right.
Thank you.
Be in touch.
Thank you very much.
All right, so next we have Alexander Nebelon, applicant from Nebelon Farms. Application for at farm
Good evening, Jeffrey McNamara for the applicant, Niebelung Farms LLC. Mr. Niebelung is here to answer any questions that any commission members may have. I think the site plan and the application are relatively straightforward. I know Gary and Mr. Williams did a site walk on Saturday, I believe, but certainly we're here to ask. I know this is the first time on the agenda, but if there's any items of interest or concerns that the commission members may have, Mr. Niebelung is here to answer any of those questions.
Madam Chair, if I may, I believe the agency has in the past issued a permit for a single-family dwelling on this property. The difference between that permit and this one is that this one includes a barn. The house is relatively in the similar proximity to where the previous permit was. I think what's important to note, is there was in the previous application, there was an area that was identified as wetlands that has no longer been identified as wetlands. In my walk with Mr. Niebelung and Commissioner Williams, we took a look at that same area in the soils report. It's indicated from Ian Cole as to why he does not believe that area, which was previously delineated by Rich Snarsky, why it's not a water course. I would say, in my opinion, based on my observations, it in my opinion, lacked a defined channel embankment and hydrophytic vegetation. I don't, and I have not yet fully read Mr. Cole's report, so I don't know if that is the conclusion he came to, but it is certainly, that's mine based on my physical site observations without even looking at a soil sample. So if there's questions regarding that, I'll be happy to ask them of Mr. Cole.
So this one we discussed recently, right? And our concern was that the wetlands had been delineated in like 20 years, right?
Correct, and they've had them redelineated and updated.
Okay, and there's actually less wetlands?
Correct.
And it's one home and a barn?
That's correct. On, I believe, a 13-acre tract.
And there's an existing road?
Existing driveway, existing bridge. The existing bridge has no guide rail on it. Again, it's a private bridge. I don't think we have jurisdiction over that. That would be a building code thing, if anything.
And that all infrastructure is going to remain the same?
Correct.
That's correct.
They will bring utilities in, they got an overhead wire. They did, in this application, did relocate the proposed septic area to an area that was down gradient of the proposed home, as opposed to the last application, it had it pumping up to an area where you'll see the pool is. So that was the previous septic area, but they since switched it. We do, and we have received email correspondence from Ledge Light. I don't know if you received that, Jeff.
I did not receive that, no.
It came in at the 11th hour. I believe it's in your packets, and she's found it suitable for septic. That said, again, it has to remain on the agenda. It's a single-family dwelling. It's pretty straightforward. The parcel is pretty, I guess, unique in its topography. It's got its ups and downs, but it generally slopes to the east. So if there's any other specific questions for the applicant, I'll be happy to share them with them.
Certainly.
As far as the proposed barn from the nearest wetland, quote-unquote,
How do you know the distance between the barn and the...
I think that it could be close to 100 feet. There's a 100-foot setback line on that drawing there. Maybe that front east corner could be just tucked
just so the record is clear, that's Al Nebelong, the applicant.
You note on the map, it's brown, labeled 100 feet, and it just
Just
skirts
touches
the corner.
the corner, the north corner.
And there'd be a portion of that area that I guess would be the part of the gravel drive in front. So I would say it's about 90 feet from the corner of the building.
I don't know what's worse, a barn designed for livestock or a barn where there might be some oil or hydraulic fluids built?
Don't know.
I'll answer that question. This individual has a classic car collection, and then he's gonna have his property maintenance equipment in there, and then he's gonna have a little play space. He has 2 young kids. They're gonna play in there in the wintertime too. Kind of like the boy, he has 2 young boys.
I'd like to put my boys in the barn too.
Well, I guess boat too, you know, boat, a gator, lawnmower, you know, he has a couple collectible cars, and he has a 5 and 8 year old, so they'll have their toys in there, and they're gonna all do what they do.
I would say at the end of the day, on the plan, it's labeled as a barn. Its intended use would be as such, detached. What goes on it, what we cannot police that. As far as the use, that's a zoning matter.
Correct.
Understandably, the concern about fuels and leakage, I would suspect that, you know, something like that, you could say, hey, it's got to be self-contained. No drains, floor drains or things like that, unless they go to an approved location, septic or health, you know.
It's just gonna drain into the smoke.
I think the only question I'd have with that is the, you know, it's going to be on slab, so your roof, probably just going to have roof runoff. Where's that directed? You know, do you direct it over to the wetland? It's an active kind of place where it's going to go. Roof runoff is relatively clean with the exception of atmospheric deposition, which can be argued.
Yeah, I mean, it's a long way from the creek itself.
Yeah, and this wetland that it's in proximity to is isolated from the water course. It doesn't actually, it's hydraulically separate. It's higher in elevation, so I don't even believe there's a groundwater component that would be likely, but I could be wrong.
Is the area where the barn is that currently cleared, or that would have to be cleared? I didn't go to the sidewalk, so
Yeah, that would have to be cleared. I think on that map, the green line you're looking at is what's already cleared, and the squiggly line is gonna be what's proposed to be clearing.
Okay.
Are you looking at, yeah, you have a color copy.
Yep.
The green line you're looking at is what's already cleared, and that's all grass.
Okay.
And then the squiggly line you're seeing there that goes around the outer edge would be the additional clearing.
It's labeled proposed tree line at the under lot area on the top left.
And so on the map, it shows the existing gravel road, dirt drive, and then it's like reddish. You're just paving a portion of the driveway, not the whole street.
No, we're not paving the whole driveway, like all to the barn and all that going in there. It was all gonna remain gravel. There was just one little stretch, I don't know if he labeled it on there, the part going up to the house and the garage. There was a little strip there that we were gonna do, kinda has an uphill grade, you know, out in front of the garage. That area we were proposing to do blacktop.
Do we need to determine public hearing for this too?
Yes. For a single family dwelling, I don't know that it's warranted on 13 acres. I think this is more formality than anything else, having that the commission's already issued a permit once in the past. They've extended it twice. Statutorily, they have to reapply.
Yeah, we appreciate you getting the wetlands delineated have any questions? No? All right, so we'll table our discussion until the next meeting, so that's really on the agenda for
15 days.
15 days.
Right.
So,
All right, thank you very much for your time. Thanks, Gary.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Would you people need any of our people, or would I be contacted between now and then? Because I kind of had them on standby for the person that did the drawing, or I, and if somebody's needed.
I think now that we've got the review from Ledge Light, we no longer need Mr. Fanner to advocate for the septic system. It's been approved, so I don't really foresee any other professionals needed, unless you had further questions regarding the wetland that no longer delineates as a wetland.
We can certainly be here at that date if there are any subsequent questions.
But if anything comes up, if you can let me know, I'll be certainly pass them on to the applicant. But it sounds like they're comfortable with what they've got.
Yeah, we're all good.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
all right, so next on our agenda is the addition of Bramble Bush Road, determination of non-regulated activity for a shed.
Good evening. My name is Hugo Marchevsky, and I live on 7 Rumble Bush here in Niantic. And I was last year approved to put a little shed in my property, and I need to put a second one. But this one is going to infringe a little bit on the distance from a little brook that's 300 feet from the location I would like to put the shed. So I'm going to be probably 10 to 12 feet in violation.
So you're 290 feet.
Something like that. Yes. And that's why I'm here. And I don't have it's intimidating after all these presentations that I have just that. I have very little to say.
So I guess where I advise Mr. I pronounce your name, Marchinsky?
Marchevsky.
Marchevsky.
Yeah, thank you.
To come before the commission and request a determination of non-regulated activity. He was here, again, as he noted previously, for a shed. We determined no permit was required because it was just beyond the 300 feet. While the shed size fit within the 300-foot line and the side yard setback, this is his parcel here. I'm just going to go bring up the aerial. This shed's slightly larger, so to situate it within the building setback so that it doesn't violate zoning, it will extend over 2 feet into the upland review area, or regulated area, the 300 foot. So based on that, I felt that I cannot make, well, I guess I can actually, in the new regulations. Under the current regs, I don't believe I actually have the authority to make the determination that no permit's required. I believe I have the authority to say a permit is required. I can issue it if you apply. Although I found a section in our regs that may let me do this. So anyway, the fact that I have the honor here this evening, and we can just render, the commission can render this decision, but his shed, you can see in the aerial, I think there was one, I zoomed in too far, that he replaced. There was something over here, and now the shed is somewhere in this area.
That's correct.
And the 300-foot line, I don't have the previous application with me, runs right along the edge of the house. It literally skirts this corner. So and then he's got about 10 feet of space in which you can locate something before the building setback.
Gary, would this help you at all?
Yeah. So this is the copy of what was submitted previously. So it just gives you an idea of that 300 feet is. The wetland is obviously over here to the east. It's in this little pocket of area. Looking at this aerial, you wouldn't think that there's a wetland back here because you see a lot of deciduous trees.
you know that where the 300-foot line was?
How did I know that?
Yeah.
Because I had a long discussion with Gary. He took some measurements from aerial views, and he marked that, and you have the map right there.
So looking at this, I would never.
So I accepted his word.
But this lot here next door, 5 Bramble Bush, apparently, I guess, had a wetland permit at one time. You can see there's a stream that runs through it.
Yeah, yeah.
And I turned the wetland layer on. You can see that it doesn't show any wetlands associated with that stream. But they're there. So just because it doesn't show up on the map doesn't mean they don't exist.
Yeah, the neighbor has a huge house much closer to the stream.
Shows up, and so he's within proximity of this stream, 300 feet.
Okay. Yeah.
So,
Just wondering how you.
yeah.
So yeah, we're working to revise our regulations for a little bit more breathing room.
For
We're
these types of
290
applications.
feet away, trying to build a shed that we don't have to go through all of this.
That'll be so nice.
So.
I'll build 2 then.
But I caution between the whole regulated, non-regulated, because the shed is not necessarily non-regulated. It's just in this circumstance where it's not a concern.
How big a shed are we talking?
You're saying a permit's not required. Is what the determination.
We don't have to say for one reason or another, do we?
I think it would be a good practice to. You have to, when you deny an application, you have to.
Because of the location. I mean, because I don't want, like I said, I don't want to define like that this is a non-regulated activity because that's not correct. It's just
That a permit would not be required.
due to the proximity of the wetlands.
In the water.
290
Yeah.
feet away. Okay.
Correct.
And typically this would be something you'd administratively approve with the changes.
Yeah.
Do we need a motion that this is a non-regulated activity?
No, that's what I don't want to say it's non-regulated. I want to say that no permit is required due to the distance from the closest wetland or water course and the minimal size impact of the structure. You know, because it's still, we want to make sure this is going to be regulated in different circumstances.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's more like we determine no permit required.
So the motion would be that no permit is required due to the distance from the water course and the small impact of the shed.
Yes. Do I hear a second?
Oh, that was motion?
As we look-
You gotta say it when you make the
The motion is
restate
that,
your motion.
the motion is that no permit is required because of the distance to the closest water course and the minimal impact of the shed.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. You're all set.
I got it. Everybody was in agreement.
Yeah. So
I was impressed.
So I'll be sending you a letter of their decision.
Okay.
We appreciate you bringing this to us,
Thank you, sir.
coming to do
Thank
all
you.
this and taking it seriously. We appreciate it.
Take it seriously.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Gary.
All right, so next is Stoned Goat Farm, Grassy Hill Road, determination of non-regulated activity for a timber harvest.
I just received this today. I thought I'd add it to the agenda because they wanted to know if they needed to, they need anything additional. I cursory review. I don't think it's. I think it's going to be an exempt activity. There is one stream crossing. I believe it's a corduroy, as the staff told me today. So I can bring up the materials here, and we can take a look at them together. We can have the timber harvester come in and present. I don't believe that they were able to. Oh, it's not here. Okay, so next meeting, we'll have discussion on it.
So they can't harvest, as a farm, they can't do timber harvesting?
Timber harvesting is silviculture is an agricultural activity, and I believe falls under the farming exemption in Section 4. With a good rule of thumb or practice is to have the harvester fill out the form that is a DEEP has, and it's kind of universal amongst timber harvesters. They fill it out, and it's everything they're doing. It's an explanation of their project, and you submit that along with our application for a determination. We should be good to go. We can evaluate it and say, are there any regulated activities occurring as part of that project? Things like corduroys are not. If they're putting in bridges, though, that require some sort of construction work, that would be regulated. If they're stumping, that would be regulated. But if it's a standard, we're just going to harvest the timber, drop the slash, then that's typically exempt work. Again, I just received it today. I didn't have a chance to fully review it, so I can't tell you really more about it. I'll advise that maybe the landowner or the timber harvester attend the next meeting.
Yep, sounds good. Okay. All right, so moving on to old business, the inland wetland watercourse regulations. I know there was legal.
Yeah. So in your packet, you have a final draft.
Oh, I didn't even notice that.
The back. So I took the term draft off it. I left the blanks as far as the approval dates. The revisions have been made. I made some formatting revisions in regard to the definition section. I got rid of all the quotes around the terms. So there might be a semicolon, which I'm seeing here, that's missing under 2.8. But we added in a definition. I added a wetland enforcement officer, which is the same as the agent. The comment from Mr. Bleasdale was a couple, actually. Riparian buffer. The definition of riparian buffer, it says it means a vegetated area near a watercourse or body that helps protect the waterfront from the impact of adjacent uses, that mitigates the effects of development. And then we go on a little bit here, and this is where his comment was, it says an acceptable conservation easement instrument shall ensure perpetual perfection of the proposed area. They shall be comprised of native trees, etc. So his concern there was requiring an easement or saying an easement shall be had, but who holds that easement? We should clarify that. I didn't necessarily want to do that there, and I actually don't know that that's the appropriate place for that whole rest of that paragraph, if you will. Because we're saying something shall be, these are just definitions. So I think that needs to be deleted. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention that I will delete that. So yeah, there'll be one more iteration, but hopefully that'll be the one that goes forward at a public hearing. But we should take this whole and move it, if that's something. Probably would be better in section 11, I think it is, or 10. Yeah, section 11. It's the decision, process, and permit. Most likely, I think section 10 would be probably the more appropriate spot for it. Well, maybe not. Maybe.
Well, maybe section 1111 where we talk about conservation easement limits. Maybe there's some.
Well, possibly there or 7.6. 7.6 is all the plan requirement, the application requirements, and then we get into what's required on the plan. And if we're saying, the rest of this is, they also say they shall be comprised of native trees, shrubs, perennials, and ground cover species. Managed grasses are not permitted. And we also say periodic maintenance shall include the removal of dead, disease, damaged plant materials. So that stuff is really, I think, belongs in section 7, where the easement piece of this belongs in section 11. if we want the easement, if we want to specify who the easement goes to, we can do that. I think my suggestion would be to just mirror the subdivision regulations, because there's a whole section there that says these are the entities that can hold open space.
Yeah, because we had that application before with the highway easement, and no one could figure out who owned it, so we probably should, you know, that person was trying to build property, and there was
Off of Gurley Road.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that,
to define who owns the easement, I think is important.
it would have been helpful there. I think they found out that DOT owned all that land, and unfortunately, they didn't want any driveway within their right-of-way next to the state highway, so I think until they can solve that, I don't know how that parcel will actually be built out.
Yeah.
So 7-3 of the subdivision regs, you have a perpetual dedication to the town, the state, the land trust, a dedicated homeowners association, and that's really it. So those 4 options.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then, you know, things, whether or not there's public or private access, you know, that I think is more of a, you know, depending upon the homeowner or the site, or the property owner, maybe the project, whether or not you know, the planning commission typically deals with whether or not they'll desire public access to the open spaces. These easements that we're typically requiring are conservation easements for the protection of land, where we're probably going to avoid public access.
Yeah, right. Should avoid riparian buffer.
So other than the riparian buffer, there were a couple other just more typo-grammatical things that Tim had pointed out that I made corrections on. I think we're in good shape as far as where these are at.
Gary, can I ask a question?
Sure.
I'm just looking at 2.45, the upland review area. Is that saying 300 feet?
So based on these, yeah, the commission had asked that you put in 300. I had initially put in back to 100. You know, if there's any desire to reduce that, maybe to a lesser amount, that may be well received by the community. You know, I don't know if we want to be more explicit in our regulations regarding that issue.
Are we still liability here?
Liability for?
Well, having a 300 on a rule.
Well, it's no different than the 100-foot, other than it's now just 300 feet. There was no we weren't liable for. We just are required.
Money and stuff on it. There are rules about it, and what can be built and what can't be built, stuff. Can't we?
Within 300 feet?
Yeah.
The activities are regulated. They're not prohibited. So, what can be built is dictated by zoning. So you would say, okay, if I have a use and a building, I can build, and then that's in proximity to wetlands. The question there is, how close? What's the impact? You know,
It's a lot of oversight we're doing. We got, you want to hire a person for it and everything. Yeah, we got a lot of money out of it.
yeah, we're generating some revenues out of it.
And we had the discussion about if it's like case in point, this situation, to say it's outside 100 foot, you know, within the 300 foot, it's low impact, it's a shed. There's no reason to have it.
And I would say with these regulations, if you go to, I think it's section 11, I literally, before I just printed them, I was editing this section. I added section 1110, which are like similar to the town of Waterford. But it's something that the agency may request as part of an application, is that they have what they would call a non-encroachment line and actually have it shown on the map. So a good example would be like 78 Flanders Road. Non-encroachment line, there would have been no question, you don't go over there and clear any of those trees. especially for someone who is having difficulty reading the map, right? And that's what we heard from the applicants, that I misread the map. Let's clear the trees. So that might be something that's advantageous to the agency.
And we had, did you define, it was like the minor and major, oh, there is minor and major.
Yes, those are defined, those are in the definitions. And then through section 7, you have slightly different requirements for each application. Particularly, we have 7.6, all applications must include everything A through I. I'm sorry, A through Q. And then 7.6 is if you have a intermediate application or one that was deemed significant, you have to provide all of that additional information A through I on that one. And then if the commission does determine it's significant, section 7-7 says this is all the information I'll need to provide. 7.8 gives the applicant further, information should the commission want additional or further information. This is what we might be looking for. So I believe section 11, and I believe in our current regulations, say the same thing. And so I think the issue that we just dealt with might be, I might be able to answer my own question here. Let me just get the section on our wetlands. So, okay, so hear me out here. This might take me a minute, but section 11.1. The agency or its duly authorized agent acting pursuant to section 12 of these regulations may, in accordance with section 10 of these regulations, grant the application as filed or granted upon other terms, conditions, limitations, or modifications of the regulated activity designed to carry out the purposes and policy of the act, or deny the application. And I can put on some conditions. So if I go to, I believe it's section 12. This says the action by the duly authorized agent. And section 12.1 says the agency may delegate to a duly authorized agent the authority to approve or extend a license for an activity that is not located in a wetland or watercourse when such agent finds that the conduct of such activity would result in no greater than a minimal impact on any wetlands or watercourse, provided such agent has completed the training program pursuant to 22A-39 of the general statutes. So when I read that on top of, and then I go to the definition of agent, or designated agent, sorry, 2.13, means the individual designated by the commission to carry out specific functions and purposes subject to the commission's review. So I think in total, I believe that is the authority, right? It's kind of inherent in that language to make the determination that no permit's required. Because essentially when I'm reviewing a building permit application for a deck, I'm doing that rather than them coming here. So if the structure does fall within what we are now defining as the upland review area, I believe I still have the authority to make the determination that a permit wouldn't be required for that shed. That's kind of my take on it. What I've been applying is I don't have that authority. I have the authority to, it's clear, grant the permit, that's clear. But,
They're still paying a fee, right? Just even.
oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, well, again, if they come, hey, do I need a permit? And they're standing at the counter, they're not paying a fee. And I'm reviewing things, and I'm taking the same amount of time as if they had, maybe made an application, but nonetheless, it's a fine line.
Yeah, it says they use their duly authorized agent. And grant the application as filed.
So the specific functions and purposes subject to commission review, and, if I'm designated the authorized agent, so I can approve, extend a license for an activity that's not located in wetland, when I find that it results in no greater than a minimal impact. So had he just applied, here's your permit. To save, $260. He, for there's no fee with that application for a determination to begin with. We don't apply a fee to that. The idea is that we're trying to encourage people to come to us, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
So I think if we're not charging a fee, right, they can come here, but this isn't clear as far as whether or not I can actually render that determination. But it's clear that I can issue the license and extend it and renew it. So I think maybe we could add some language here that would maybe clarify that. Again, that's up to the commission, or maybe the commission rather hold on to that discretion and say, you know what, as we designate the agent, we'll tell you whether or not we're comfortable with you approving things or making those determinations for decks and sheds.
I don't object for guys like this down here for that,
So this is what, as it gets back to the 300-foot item,
But
I
yeah,
go back
know,
to the
it's-
definition of regulated area.
How do you define when, for him, yeah, this
So
definitely seems,
regulated activity, right? We talk about any operation within or the use of a wetland involving removal or deposition of material, any obstruction, construction, alteration, pollution of such wetland or watercourse, but not including the specified activities in section 4. Furthermore, any clearing, grubbing, filling, grading, paving, excavating, constructing, depositing, or removing of material and discharging stormwater on the land within 300 feet measured horizontally from the boundary of any wetland or watercourse is a regulated activity. Now, when that previously said 100, we still had this language, and it's still here today. The agency may rule that any other activity located within such upland review area or in any other non-wetland or non-watercourse area that is likely to impact or affect wetlands or watercourses is a regulated activity. So you have the discretion to look beyond 300 feet. You had the discretion to look beyond 100 feet if it was likely to impact or affect wetlands.
yeah, but we've tried that before. They were at 101 feet, like, nope, we're not going to. So I caution about.
So, well, that applicant in particular on Roxbury Road, he would argue that. And so maybe if he had the wherewithal to hire attorneys and bring them in, but I would have said, hindsight is 20/20, and based on my interpretation of this, and I think if you asked Mr. Bleasdale, you had the right then to say, no, that needs a permit. So I think Phyllis would be happy to say, 101 feet, I can require him to get a permit. Now, based on this, all I have to do is say that there's a likelihood that there's a potential impact. Now, what he's saying is, well, I put up erosion and sedimentation controls. I was 108 feet. So, okay, what's wrong with that? I don't, 8 feet, and if you have proper ENS controls. Even if he was 50 feet, because we permit that. We permit these things. So, in that case, he needed a permit anyway for the subdivision. But the stockpile was for
No, the
construction.
one I'm thinking of, I think, was the one on Upper Kensington. He was at 101 feet. He's like, I'm showing you this, but I'm not giving you a wetlands permit. Was it Kensington? Yeah.
I don't know who the developer would have been.
It was like those 3 houses up there. I think,
That would, because yeah, okay. I think that was because the wetland was up gradient of those homes. It was still going up, and then there was a pocket of wetlands there. In particular, there was an appeal, and I remember I signed an affidavit, said on the appeal for the 300-foot, that there were, there were no wetlands within proximity of the parcel that was it the appellant? I don't know, defendant, whatever, we're the defendants, he was the appellant, had claimed that he had standing. And I had said, no, there's no wetlands, so why would he have standing? And they said, oh, you forget, here's a map, there it is, and it was this wetland pocket up there, and I think that's where he was just over the 100 feet from it. And I think his rationale was, why would I apply for a permit when it's upgradient of my project? 101 feet. Now, had we been able to say there's a likelihood, or or something to that effect, then yeah, you could have said you need a permit. Or you could, I think, say, hey, yeah, we would like to see a permit and make a determination whether or not a permit is required, whether there are any impacts. So I think there's more leeway there than you realize that you might
I
have.
don't know. I feel like the 300 foot is really to capture those large scale developments that have an impact. And I think they bring their attorneys in and say, we're at 120 feet. We don't need a wetlands permit. This protects us to have some oversight there. I feel bad for the gentleman that came today to have to present, but we said we don't need a permit. Thank you for coming, and he's good. So
Right, there's a mechanism for
there's
it.
a huge influx of people complaining about the upwards of 300 foot. The town's getting a little bit more money from it. It's helping protect other wetlands because they're getting a little bit more funding. So I think 300 foot is not a bad thing. And with caveating that, you can administratively manage some more of these applications with the new regulations. I don't think that that's an issue.
Does it specifically say, because we defined minor regulated activity, intermediate, and significant, but something, I guess, that is minor is something that doesn't necessarily have to come to us, right? So
Correct.
do we specify that, if it's an intermediate or significant regulated activity, then it has to come to us, but otherwise, Gary has the...
That's the intent, is that all minor regulated activities, the agent can take care of. Intermediate
Does
and...
it need to specifically say that, though? Does it say it in here? I mean, it's implied, but doesn't it need... I don't know. I'm just...
Clarity is great, wherever you can provide it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So
I
I think that's a
is
good
that
point, that it's...
something...
I don't think it's clearly spelled out in here, and it should be.
if that's our intention, and that's why we went and kind of defined minor, intermediate, and significant, then we should definitely, I think, be clear about, if it's a minor regulated activity, Gary can just determine whether it needs a permit, it doesn't need a permit, he can issue the permit, those things without having to bring it to the meeting, to the committee.
Yeah, because you have 7.6, which talks about what the applications are required, and then, oh wait, I'm noticing we have there's two separate sources. On page 17 and 19. So the page 17.76 talks about what applications are required, and then the page 19.76 goes right to intermediate or significant regulated activity.
Yeah,
But we
so
don't have
minor.
an application proposing a minor activity, and then maybe we add those words. We could say, at the discretion of the agency or the agent, when it's a minor related activity, this is not, kind of spell out that they don't need to come to us.
So an application proposing that can be deemed, in this case, it would be by the agent as minor.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Some discussion, have a section to discuss that. And and then we can put in more defined, you know, if it's, I don't know, size or if it's deposition material or something, and just say a permit isn't, could even define permit, maybe that isn't required outside of 100 feet or something.
Ideally, things like 100 cubic yards.
Yeah.
The thresholds that I've held are if you're depositing or excavating more than 100 cubic yards, I kick it off to the commission. If you're getting closer than, say, 25 feet to a wetlands or watercourse, I tend to kick it off to a commission. Just
So can you just put that in writing so that it's in here?
yeah.
If that's what you do, you might as well put it in writing.
I caution you that when you set these limits, you're boxed in. You know, when you say 25 feet, 50 feet, you are now boxed in. You have no leeway at all.
So, you know, you could be, you know, could you have a minor activity, I guess, within 20 feet of a wetlands or watercourse? Yeah.
Well, would you determine it to be a minor activity if it was that close?
For a shed, you're going to do some grading, put your shed on at grade. You know, you got nowhere else on your property to go, kind of a thing. Well,
And again, we're not going to deny that.
so yeah, I think if we just say an application deemed minor based on the definition of what a minor activity is, right? It's those which would result in no greater than a minimal impact. No activity shall be considered minor unless it occurs solely within the regulated area, exclusive of wetland watercourse, and no septic installation activity is happening. Okay, and there's the 100 cubic yards is in there. Requiring the deposition, now again, it's specific to septic installation activity. No septic installation or activity, yeah, requiring deposition or removal of more than 100 cubic yards of material shall be considered a minor. So that's in there. But proximity, you know, that distance is not. So I guess that gives us some leeway to work with. Doesn't box us in too much.
Yeah, and again, we don't necessarily have to define the distance, but open it so that it's for the agency or the agent's determination. Discretion.
So I would just take 7.6 on page 17 and just add an application deemed minor by the agent shall include the following information in writing or on maps or drawings. Or maybe just add that. All that, maybe, start with all applications shall include the following information in writing on maps or drawings, including any application deemed minor by the agent. I think if we put that in 7.6, that would address minor regulated activities and intermediate. Yeah. And then I'll have to renumber the sections again to be 7.6, 7.7. So the whole section has to get renumbered.
Yeah, and then it's like the last 5% of any document. Like I'm seeing 714 section 4 references 711D. We have to change that to 712D.
What page is that?
23. The last paragraph. Subsection 712D. Once you renumber everything.
D, the 12D, 7. So what would be 712D? Section 711.
Yeah, because you have two section 7.6s. So 1 would become 7-7. Yeah.
Correct.
So that 7-11 would become 7-12.
Item D, the application shall state the reason why the authorized activity was not initiated or completed within the time specified. Right. I guess, what are you asking me to do?
No, I'm just saying you have to double check that all your numbers still line up once you renumber.
Oh,
Like
correct, if there's any references.
Yeah, there's that, because that's pointing to a reference, but all those numbers are going to change because there's 2 numberings wrong in that section.
Okay, correct. I can double check that. We referenced just section 7 of the regulation, so I think I'm good there. So it's not specific to any, but I'd have to go back and see, oh, number 715.4 references section 11D. I got you. So that would be section 12D. I was looking at the wrong section.
Yeah, okay.
I'm looking at actual 7, what would be 712D, saying,
sorry. No, yeah,
I didn't see the reference.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
I also had to make a change to the reference to section 2 in our, I think it was in section, anyway. I'm sorry, section 6.2, there was a reference to section 2.1 definitions, and it was the old regulations say 2.1Y. Don't know
right.
what that, so we're just 2.1 resolves that. So I only have these 2 more significant changes. I can make those. It's up to the commission whether you want to have any further discussion, whether you want to direct staff to schedule a public hearing on them, but in order to adopt these, we have to hold a public hearing on them. I would, we don't, there's no requirement statutorily to refer them to any other agency, department, or bureau. It might behoove us, though, to send them off to DEEP, ask them to take a look. They're the ones who came up with the model regulations back in 1972, or somewhere thereafter, but, they're the experts, so to speak. We're just carrying out the statute. So we can send it off to them. The COG has resources. We can certainly kick it off to zoning if we wanted to hear if they had any thoughts. And again, the Board of Selectmen if they had any. But again, there's no statutory requirement. But this is it's a significant overhaul to them. So again, once we initiate this public hearing, we can hold it open indefinitely as long as we want, because there's no timeline to close it when it's commission initiated. So we have time to make changes and modifications. I think, though, anything that we do obviously has to be kind of within keeping of the document we put forward. So if you want to make significant changes to it, then we might have to kind of start all over with public hearing type of thing. But I think if it's in
just the wording on 2.3.
Agency member
Means.
means a member of the Inland Wetland Agency of the town of East Lyme.
Leave the typo.
Or it says means a member.
Oh,
You're reading it too fast. You've looked at this too much. So.
yeah, and the M on the definition should be capitalized.
Yeah.
Let the word.
So I
okay.
think definitely as a courtesy, we should send these to zoning, Board of Selectmen, and D. But I would encourage us to go move to a public hearing, especially next month for all the holidays, to kind of get this moving, because we've been sitting with this for a few years now. Do you think that would be
Yeah, I mean,
okay?
just like any other application, if we referred it, we would handle it the same way, and that's always good practice to do that. So, we got 65 days to, but if you want to start next month, then they'll have 30 days to kind of review it, type of a thing.
Well, did you say we could keep the public hearing open?
Mm-hmm. So 30 days from now, we'll have a public hearing, and
Yeah.
between now and then, these departments and agencies can review them, and maybe they'll
I'm
comment.
just kind
maybe
of
they'll-
curious if the public does come and if they have any input that could help us while we're in this stage still versus end of the game and having to revisit everything.
Correct.
So,
All right, great. We'll plan on the next meeting and we'll move these forward.
Is there something, if you send it to like the Board of Selectmen, just because these are obviously pretty dense, is there any way, I don't know if somebody could come and just say, hey, look, these are the big changes, or maybe even do like another,
Sure.
email with them saying, in particular, these are the areas that, you know what I mean? Just because otherwise it's just a large
Yeah.
document,
Uh, I think what I can do is probably out of some of my iterations here is just create a kind of a bulleted list of the major highlights here of the significant
Yeah,
changes.
just-
Present that with the document to the Board of Selectmen.
mhm.
I'm happy to do that with you.
Yeah.
And that way that will kind of guide us a little bit,
Yeah.
you know what I mean, and the other Board of Selectmen,
Yeah, we can.
yeah, what we should focus on.
When's your next meeting? I think it's.
My next meeting is October 15th.
I could,
I mean, even if
Okay.
you do like probably the section with the upper review area, and you know what I mean, just the, kind of
Yeah.
like the main highlights, I don't think it has to be,
In depth.
in depth, no, not at all.
Yeah.
But just so you kind of can direct people, I mean, I understand it, but there's a lot of other Board of Selectmen who have not dealt with inland wetland
Correct.
before.
Yeah, I think we would just highlight the kind of the change in the regulated area, the minor, intermediate, significant breakdown, how that applies.
Yeah.
Only thing we haven't touched on is our fee schedule. And with the increased upland review area, that's where I've heard the most grief is on the fee schedule because it didn't change with it. So we're on that.
we talked about doing a sliding scale though, right?
Yes, so I haven't prepared that. We lost, our intern had finished and that kind of went by the wayside. But that was a good idea that was developed. So hopefully by week's end we'll have an intern working downstairs finally. So we'll see what happens. Fingers crossed.
8:43 p.m.
If that goes forward, then yeah, we can definitely work on that sliding scale. But obviously, we don't approve that fee schedule, so I'm going to start working on. Well, we do, but ultimately, it has to go to the Board of Selectmen as part of town ordinance. So
Well, I think so. Maybe.
I need, yeah, if I can start working on that, and maybe by the time we get through this, that fee schedule would be kind of caught up.
Mhm.
Is
Yeah.
that what you were thinking?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was my suggestion.
Yeah.
I can whittle away at that while these are done now.
So would you want to be giving stuff to the Board of Selectmen on October 15th? Would you?
I would give you these along with that, just synopsis.
Okay.
That
Right. And then the fee schedule, would that come later?
It would have to come
it would come later.
Yeah.
I can come.
Alright,
I
and
would
that's
then
something too that, like, we would really need just to,
plan.
to make sure that you tell us, there have been issues with this, because, you know what I mean, we don't want to
Right.
cause, aggravation to the residents. We want to be fair and reasonable.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So I think, yeah, looking at, I can highlight that case and just say, here's why we're doing this, and I need to do all that work.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
And I think the way the process is going to work most efficiently is if we do present October 15th this for your oversight, what we're thinking with the scale. We're going to get town input, really some deep input, and then follow up with you at the very end to say this is final, this is our scale. If we come up with that, this is what we developed. We all okay, right?
Okay.
all right, great.
Yeah.
All right,
Okay.
great.
Awesome. Let's get this done. It's been a long time.
I think it goes back a few years. I think almost 4 or 5, pre-COVID.
It says September 13th, 2021. That was
Yeah,
for 300.
I remember
There was a
we
commission
had
before.
yeah we had a subcommittee when Cheryl Lozanoff was the chair, so however many years ago that
That was like 2017.
Yeah, of
28.
pre-COVID, so
Yeah.
5-6 years.
Okay,
All
awesome.
right.
Good. All right, so please, everybody, read these over so that we can have a good discussion. The public hearing next month. Hopefully start to wrap those up.
Do we need to make a motion that we want to have a public hearing next meeting?
You don't need to, you're directing me to schedule it, but if you'd like to make a motion to do it, you can. You don't need it.
Okay, that's fine. I didn't know, because we have to make a motion for, like, when we have permit.
Well, no, it says direct staff to make further changes or make a motion to direct staff to schedule a public hearing.
Motion.
Okay, I make a motion to have a public hearing.
Let's second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye. Public hearing to discuss.
Proposed regulations.
He said.
Right, somebody, Carlos,
I don't have anything for the chairman's report, so then next is inland wetlands agent report, administrative commission issued permits. There's a report attached.
Yeah, there's a report, and what's not on here, and I just recently issued, was a modification to the Patagonia Lake permit. The activity that they wanted to change, what they wanted to do is include a new property that's on the lake that the town owns in order to put the spoils, mainly because the spoils are coming out of the channel. And they've been doing this for 10 years now. Their properties are full of this decomposed material. It's great for growing stuff. But that being said, they asked and approached Dan and I whether or not they could put some of the spoils over on the Hathaway property. We found a location that would be suitable. That I advised Dan that I believe I could modify the permit because the activity was taking place in the upland. With that, I felt comfortable making that modification. We did charge them a modification fee. So that will go forward this October. November, they'll be hydro raking in Lake Pat, but that's going to be the end of their process. They'll be back in February, March to reapply for a whole new permit. This time they'll probably continue to include the Hathaway piece. And just to continue to go forward. They've made quite a bit of progress, I think, over the last 10 years with the lake. So what this hydro raking has had a significant impact, I think, for the better. This kind of concern that the association has is that to continue to do it as like the cost is significant, and I understand that, but that's kind of comes with the territory of living on the water. I don't so they also inquired as to whether or not the town would be interested in joining the association.
Beach rights, woo!
Yeah. That said, there's some problems with that in terms of liabilities and so forth, so I don't know if that'll ever happen, but certainly we can support their effort to maintain the pond or the lake. So that permit was issued. It does expire in May, so they'll be back, like I said before that, to reapply for a whole new permit, this time including the Hathaway piece on that. That's all I have for now. There's a couple of other items I'm still working on. This Rocco Drive, I haven't been too active in pursuing him, but talking with the neighbor, he's just questioned me a few times. His concern was that the clearing was on his property, and he wants privacy. So I'm trying to get the neighbor who did the clearing to revegetate, and then I was advised that they've done some additional work in their backyard, so it's giving me more reason to go back out there, take another look. I've asked the abutting landowner for permission to traverse their property, which they granted, to take a look at this piece. So I'm going to get back out there and see what's going on. Yeah, there was an excavator somewhere down there in proximity to the pond. The other, I think the one on Flanders Road here, I think that one's as good as it's going to get. I don't think much else is happening. So I think we can, the site's stable, the lawn's back in. I think we can kind of take it off our radar now. That's all I got. I've been out to the new Sitco station. The silt fence is in good working order. I've also been traversing the Twin Valley subdivision. That hasn't had any breaches or anything like that. And if they ever have any silt fence that is falling, it seems to get repaired quite quickly. So I know that's their primary concern, is that they stay on top of the ENS controls. I think that's really it for what's going around town.